to Divine Decode, the space where we slow down and explore the sacred that so often hides in plain sight. I'm Pragya Malvia, your host, and I'm so glad you're here. Tonight, we are joined by someone whose journey is nothing short of extraordinary. Kimberly Braun is a former monastic nun, a TEDx speaker, and truly a lifelong mystic of presence. She spent over a decade in contemplative silence and service, and today she guides thousands in remembering how to live from divine love, not by escaping life, but by entering more deeply into it. If you've ever wondered whether the sacred can be found in heartbreak, traffic, or even in your morning cup of chai, tonight's conversation might just change how you see everything. Thank you for being here, Kimberly.
Oh, it's great to be with you. What a great introduction.
That's just how great you are, and it's such a pleasure to have this conversation with you. Um, Kimberly, you've said before that the divine is in all experience, right? That's such a beautiful thought, right? But in the middle of life's messiness and all the chaos, when we're stuck in traffic, feeling heartbroken or just tired, what does that actually look or feel like? How does it look?
Yeah, it's a perennial question, isn't it? It's just humanity has always wondered where is the goodness in suffering? And if all the world is created from goodness and life is good at its basic essential nature, then why does suffering exist? What what can we say about it as being part of our lives? And how can we even discover that there's goodness even there? And it's a multifaceted answer because it's such a big question. But the first answer that comes to me is we discover a mysterious, revealing presence when we go into the heart of wherever we are. So if I have a moment that I feel discouraged because something I've longed for isn't going to be mine or isn't happening the way I hoped, and it was reasonable to hope for that. And my response is a feeling of discouragement. If I go right into the heart of that discouragement versus trying to get past it, get through it, push it down, bypass it, negate it. So if I go right into the heart of it, I've always discovered that there at the very center is a presence that itself is very consoling. And it allows for a new experience of the form of suffering that I may be in. And I have found when I serve others that when they go there as well, they find the same thing. There's something that gets healed or lit up, and it makes it possible to find the inner resources to move forward.
That's totally right, and yeah, that's great. Also, for someone who's just right in thick of pain, or that monotonous life that they have, how do we begin to notice that presence that you just spoke of? And especially when nothing feels even remotely sacred, how to begin to notice that presence?
It's a really great question because my life has been so rooted in spirituality, literally all my life. I have also learned that you can't make assumptions about this, that we all have a different way that we're living our lives. And it could be easy to see that if I don't use spiritual language, that maybe my life is less quote unquote sacred. But where I find a common entry point for us all is not using all of that language and focusing in on moments when we actually relax into our lives. I I feel confident that if I sit with anyone that's listening to this podcast, we could find that in each day there is a moment when you touch in on what we might call presence with a capital P. You may not define it as being sacred. You may not define it as being eternal or of the divine or of God, but that presence has an ineffable quality to it. And we could take those experiences. For instance, let's say you see something really beautiful in nature, or you smell a beautiful flower, a sunset captivates you, or a forest really puts you in awe. Stopping in that moment and letting yourself have the full experience is a way in. And your language doesn't have to be that it's sacred or spiritual or whatever, but the very creative element that is all around you that you're a part of is itself the gateway into this presence.
You actually, I agree with whatever you said. And, it's literally like this that, we don't just need to chase it right there. It's just right there and it's in those moments. And I totally agree with you. And I hope our listeners, they, resonate with it and they take up that insight. Also, you spent years in deep contemplation, and as a monastic nun, that level of silence is it's just unimaginable to most of us, right? What was that one most unexpected lesson that you discovered about the divine during that time?
Oh, there's so much. I really couldn't limit it down to just one or two things. But I would say that living in silence allows the limited ways that we look at life and ourselves to slowly fall away. In the world that we're in, there's so much goodness, right? And there's so much ways of being alive and roles like being a mom or a dad or a sibling or having a career or doing there's all of these ways that we are in the world that are deeply meaningful and wonderful. But with it, oftentimes goes a collective conscious set of beliefs that leads us to limitations, putting undue pressure on ourselves, operating from a place of guilt or blame or shame, uh, judging ourselves harshly. So often, our roles and our positions lead us to not being really nice to ourselves, not really offering to ourselves the kind of compassion that we deserve. Living in silence eliminates the positioning. And by virtue of that positioning being gone, the beliefs that go along with that that are limiting, not the life-giving ones, like the joy of being a mother or a father, those I'm not speaking to, the limiting beliefs fall away and there's a self-discovery that's more stable, that's not so dependent or influenced by the events in our lives or the people in our lives. How often we've been betrayed or let down or disappointed because something ended or something went away or something bad happened. Living in silence, it strips us of our attachment to these things just by virtue of being in the silence. There's a conditioning that happens there that opens us up to the expansiveness of our being.
That's totally right. And I'm also curious, did that wisdom, did it hold steady once you stepped back into the noise and fast pace of the outside world, which you did, and or did it just shift in surprising ways? How did it happen?
I would say that, yes, in large part, there was a purification, if you will, and a growing in wholeness, WHOLE, wholeness that happened in the silence. And what gives really great evidence to it is in my latest book, which is what you booked me through, Miracles in the Naked Light. I tell a story that happens towards the end of my time of being a monastic nun. And I believe in large part that all of the great things that happened in that story, the miracles, happened largely because I had been living in silence and I had become available to the miracles that are all around me. And I'm not the only one. I was part of a larger group, but I'm speaking for myself. I loved the way you started and included that we barely see what's right in our midst. It could be the divine, it could be miracles, it could be spaciousness, it could be peace, it could be joy, it could be wisdom. But we walk in a field where that's always readily available to us. And it doesn't take being in a monastery to wake up to that reality.
That's so powerful to hear. And yes, I totally agree with you on that. Also, so often people, they just feel that they have to leave something behind. The chaos, whether the ambition or the distraction, in order to find the sacred, right? They just feel that they have to, leave something behind to gain something. But do you think it's possible to find the divine by moving through those very things? Or, it's just as they say that, you have to leave something.
That's a nuanced question because we always have to give up everything that's limiting us. So, yes, in your self discovery, when you give yourself wholly to this awakening, it will take everything that you are, and you will need to give up your false senses of self because they limit you. They cast a shadow on what's meant to please you. So in that way, yes, by way of needing to like leave the quote unquote world to join a monastery, that is not necessary. We're meant to be in this world. This world is a beautiful creation. We're in a field of beauty here. And what really is the pathway isn't a cookie cutter where you say, okay, I have to give up all these things I love in order to attain something. That's not the way it goes. What happens is we open ourselves to settling for nothing less than the fullness of what we are. And then whatever choices we need to make, we make in alignment with that commitment to self. And we'll be just surprised at what we're called to either let go of or not let go of.
That's totally on the choices that we make, and that's so true. Also, the world, it's just so fast moving, and it's often messy in the human world. I'm not saying that spirituality, it's not human, but I'm saying that, the human, the normal, or the day-to-day world that we live in is so messy, that, it's difficult to stay spiritually connected. So how do we stay spiritually connected while being, fully immersed in all our to day tasks, and still, just bring the best out of us?
Yes, and you are right. Life is messy. I mean, we could extrapolate that and look out at nature. Look at nature that's untended. Look how messy it is, where roots are growing over roots and trees and plants are coexisting. And, it's you look out into a forest or anywhere out into untended nature, you're going to see messiness. Life for us is just like that. What is imperative when we make the commitment to discover who we are and to live it fully is the willingness to incorporate the kinds of commitments and practices that will support that. And this doesn't have to be grandiose. I've been teaching meditation for 24 years now. And most of the time when people work with me, I start them out with a commitment of 10 minutes a day. Now, that's very doable. We waste so much time in a day. You can make a choice for 10 minutes a day to give yourself to do a practice that lets you tap in and come into stillness. And I have always found that when people make this commitment in a manageable way, then their capacity to increase that commitment grows exponentially. Think about like when you have something you love to do. Maybe you like love to meet a friend for a drink for a happy hour. If you really love to do that, you're going to find a time to do it. You're going to make time. It's going to fit in. You're going to find a way. That's the way it is when we taste the richness of coming close to ourselves. We end up naturally wanting more. And then the universe conspires to set up our schedule to make more available for us. This
Hmm.
is a chance and we are supported in this process, but you do want to make a commitment to yourself that shows it in your words and your actions.
Hmm. That's so true. And also you have, you know, just a heart that you speak so often and so beautifully about divine love. And how would you say that's different from the kind of love that we hear about all the time, whether romantic love or even self-love for that matter? How do divine love takes place?
Mhm. Yeah, it's a lovely question. I think divine love contains all forms of love. So you can find in there all forms of intimacy. One of the qualities of divine love is intimacy and intimate communion, an intimate knowing, an intimate holding. And I think divine love, even though I could give words to it, is really beyond words. So we could talk about divine love being unconditional love, which it is. But when we experience divine love in its ineffable sense of it, and we can experience it in the midst of a beloved, like a romantic partner, or in the midst of taking care of a dog, or in the midst of some book we may be reading or writing, we can have that moment when we experience love in its true essence, in its fullness. The word unconditional even falls away because that has an opposite, conditional. Divine love is beyond all these opposites and holds them all. So, romantic partners, they're meant to lead us to the divine love at the center of our being. Friendships meant to lead us there. Life meant to lead us there. And when we see that these forms of love in our life, we could love a plant, we could love an occupation, we could love a group we're a part of. When we look at them as ways to experience a different form of divine love, we allow them to be held in a certain way where they don't override our availability to the ineffable love that they're meant to open us to.
Hmm, that's so healing to hear, you know. Also for people who question or who have never felt deeply loved, do you think that they can also, still access that wellspring of divine love with themselves, within themselves, like just there?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's so true. And also you mentioned that before, and that's it's especially for those who feel like they're past or pain. It disqualifies them from something so sacred. It's really healing to hear for them and for our listeners who really think that they are also, let's talk about presence in today's world, where we are, constantly pulled by urgency or pings and productivity. How do we live from presence without, disconnecting from the momentum or the purpose of it?
Hmm. Right. So this is a developed capacity most of the time. When lives are very full, it can again overshadow the presence that is always an available state for us to experience. So I think you said that so accurately. And it's just a matter of practice, but these can be simple practices. For instance, you could say in the morning, today I'm going to take one deep breath before I begin everything new. So you go to make a cup of coffee. Before you start making it, one deep breath in and out, and then focus
Hmm.
entirely on the coffee. Same thing. I'm getting in the car to go to work. I get in the car before I start driving, in and exhale. Now that took all of 5 seconds. You could do that for an entire day and it will help you drop into presence amidst a full schedule. There's many, many practices like that that bring you just into the immediate moment, being present with everything you say. Instead of just speaking quickly, you can still speak with rapidity, but be really present in what you're saying. Like really let your focus and your attention and your heart be there in what you're saying.
I love that. I love that. Also, uh, is there a small grounding practice that you personally, return to when you feel off center, or something that our listeners and the people who are, just finding their divine, they should practice something that helps them and you also re-anchor in that still point.
Yes. First of all, I've got hundreds, if not thousands, of these little small practices, mainly because I've been of service for so many years and I collect practices to help people. But one thing I've been into lately that I find very grounding is I on Instagram, I came across a few feeds that give 30 to 1 minute Tai Chi exercises that move energy through the body and create a groundedness. So, doing an exercise like that for a minute, 60 seconds, it can really shift you. So, if you've gotten really anxious or nervous or off center or stressed on any level, or even depressed, where you're feeling a lack of energy, you can do these various little exercises for just 25 reps. You're going to feel better. Get the body moving and bring your attention into the body when you're moving. I don't know all of the different sites. I just scroll through Instagram and they're super easy. You could make them up yourself and do anything for just 60 seconds and you will find a difference in your own life.
That's so insightful. And I love that. Also, the effort that you put in, giving these insights. Thank you. Thank you so much for being with us and for opening your heart with such grace. It was such a, honor to talk to you. And your presence, it's literally a powerful reminder that the sacred is never far. It's just right here, even in the messiness of life, even in the chaos that we live in. And to all of you listening, thank you for sharing this moment with us. This is Pragya Malviya, your host, signing off with love, light, and a heart full of gratitude. Until next time, keep seeking, keep softening, and above all, stay open to the divine in the everyday. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.